Well, good morning everybody. This is DearMamaSal on a very pleasant Monday morning. It is 5 degrees here in southern British Columbia, which would make it about 41, I believe, in American. And today, I forgot to check how many days until spring. But I will try and remember to do that when I do the edit. It can't be that many now. Yay. So I had a great weekend on lots of levels, but I just wanted to discuss with you a couple of things that happened on Friday. Not Friday. I don't work on Friday, it must be Thursday. But on Thursday, for those of you who don't know, I actually did go ahead and start seriously talking about retirement. And it's the first time I've had that discussion with my boss and said, okay, fine, this is what I want to do. And so the reason I'm mentioning that, for those of you who don't know, is that is going to set up a whole series of subconscious things going on in my mind. Survival being one of them. But you know, it's just because it's going to be a complete shift of mentality. And a complete shift in income, and yeah, it's going to actually be a complete shift in my life on many levels. And part of the challenge for me is to be able to see how to do this in a positive way. And I know that lots of you have lots of great advice. I think that the circumstances are very individual, right? So that although we all have advice on how to do things, these sort of things are all very individual. So I'm going to be looking at some pretty big shifts in my life, but I'm hoping to take you with me. In other words, I'm hoping that as I go through these transitions, that will be major transitions for me, that you will be there with me and that we will be able to discuss them, and that you'll find where they're relevant in your life, and hopefully that will make it a worthwhile discussion. I'm pleased to tell you my Christmas tree is down. It's a week late, but it's down. I'm happy about that. It was one of those things where it was on a list of priorities and it just didn't get to the top of the priority list. And owing to the fact that I do sort of live a pretty quiet lifestyle, I haven't got a whole lot of visitors coming in and out all of the time. I wasn't too worried about my Christmas tree being up longer than it should have been. I know some of you got yours down on Boxing Day. I mean, I understand that. And that some of you would have got it down by Epiphany, which I think is January the 5th. But at least mine is down. Yay. It was a major achievement this weekend. Now, some of you would have watched the vlogs from this weekend where you heard about my car and the chaos that there is around it. And we'll be doing more about that tomorrow, I guess. So that's a good thought. Do I take my camera mount with me tomorrow to work. I guess I need to, and then I'm dead scared I'm going to leave it in the car. The rental car that they'll have to give me. Just my luck, right? Oh well, we'll make a plan. So, I was talking to some viewers this weekend about the situation with my phone, and it's interesting some of the comments that I've had about the phone issue, and some of you saying that, you know, you've had your phone for 4 years and so what. It's about the bells and whistles, I guess, and yet there were some people who were contacting me and letting me know they still had their flip phone and it worked very well. And you know, I had to smile at that, and I go, good for you. Good for you. And I must admit, until I became a vlogger, flip phones were just fine for me too. And a plan where I only paid if I used the phone. Sort of thing, almost. But I must admit that since becoming a vlogger, things like having a backup camera, a good camera in the phone has become much more important. In the case I, you know, have something happen to my camera or something. And I have used it, as you know. I've used the camera on my phone a couple of times for you guys when I've had a problem somewhere else. So those sort of things become more important once you're vlogging. I was having a conversation over dinner last night, and by the way, we had really nice dinner. And then I made chicken tenders with, I marinated them in lime juice and soy sauce. I always thank Benji for teaching me that one. Chicken marinated in lime juice and soy sauce always tastes great. And then I coated them in breadcrumbs. I like to use a mixture of breadcrumbs. I use half panko and then half homemade breadcrumbs. And I like the different consistencies of that. Now what I didn't do is make a batter. I just did them breaded because, which is probably a good thing, I did them in the halogen, and so that's air fried. So they're still crispy, and they were very nice, but I'm not using any oil. Actually, I lie. I spritz them with Pam just before I cook them. But literally a spritz, just to, you need, you know, something to crisp it. As opposed to deep frying. So much, much more healthy. And they were really tasty. What did I do with them? Mashed potatoes and peas. Nice and simple meal. Now, the reason I'm mentioning it is because I did a couple of sauces that were out of a bottle, dipping sauces, but I made one of my own, which I wanted to let you know, in case you want to try it. It was really surprisingly good. I took a little tub of mandarin oranges, you know, the little containers you get with them in, and drained them. And I threw that in my magic bullet with a good tablespoon of Dijon mustard. That's the one where you can see the mustard seeds. And then an equal amount of mayo, and I used good quality mayo. When I say good quality, it wasn't a cheap knockoff, let's put it that way. It was a good one. And then I just blended that all together. Oh, So you had the sweetness of the mandarins, the tartness of the mustard, and the, I want to say mellowness, the smoothness, mellow, sort of, almost. I've never used the word mellow about food, but that's how it tasted, of the mayo. Mellow mayo, that was what it was. Anyway, it was a big hit. In fact, it got chosen many more times than the store-bought stuff. And luckily, I've got enough left over, because I had a couple of pieces of chicken left over, so guess what I'm going to be having for dinner tonight? Yum. Leftover crispy chicken with sauce. Looking forward to that. Alright everybody, so we are on a mission to change life completely. I have no idea how that's going to play out. First of all, I've got to change everything at work. So I'm finding that a very interesting discussion, because it's making people think differently. I don't know if any of you get amused by this, but as soon as I mentioned the fact I was leaving, it was like suddenly they can afford to have 1.5 people do my job. You know, in other words, not only are they going to bring somebody in to do my job, but they're actually bringing in somebody else to do half of my job, which I've been trying to do both those things in 4 days a week. And I don't know why that amused me. I thought that was a great compliment, actually. We'll see how that works out. But you know, now I've got all the problems of interviewing and finding the right sort of fit, and then making a short list, and then letting them decide which one they want, because quite honestly, it's really got very little to do with me at this point. I can make recommendations, but it's going to be who they want, not who I want to do the job. So interesting. Anyway, so having said that, it was a great weekend. We had some great broadcasts. We laughed a lot. We had actually a really good day yesterday. We were asking lots of values questions yesterday. And for those of you who don't know, quite often a lot of our broadcasts are asking challenging questions and getting people to think. So those of you who like sort of value questions, and the reason I like to do that is because when we get to talk about it all together, you know, you get different viewpoints about things and so forth. And we ended up with some quite serious subjects, especially yesterday. And one of the questions that got asked, and I thought it was a very relevant one, and I'm just going to talk about it quickly today, was about how do I cope with all the negativity that people probably write to me about. You know, I for those of you who don't know, a lot of people write to me and ask for my help on stuff, and obviously I hear a great deal about broken homes, broken marriages, abuse, you name it. People write to me about it, and I am very happy that they do, because if they can talk about it, even to me, it's a very important part of healing, is that you should be able to talk about it. Because if you can get the words out, they're not stuck inside your body, and you're not hurting your body in that way. So anyway, but one of the viewers asked me, how do you cope with it? And what I said to them, it's a very, very important part. And I don't know how I learned how to do it. Maybe as when I was a speaker. One of the things you have to do as a speaker is not take everything in. You know, you can have .9% of the people absolutely adore what you just did, and then you have the hater that, you know, it doesn't matter what you did, they're not going to like it, so they're going to complain. And you just have to learn not to dwell on that person. And so part of what I do with negativity is I hear it, because I always ask myself, you know, is this important for me? And most times when I listen to people talk about their stuff, whatever their stuff is, normally there's some, you know, some way in which I can look at it, and that's also going on in my life in a different way, but I like to think that it's worth looking at. So I try to have a look at each sort of situation. For example, if somebody's talking to me about abuse or something, I'll say, you know, have I got any abuse going on in my life at the moment, or am I accidentally abusing anybody at the moment? I'll always ask those sort of questions of myself. And I don't mean necessarily the same abuse as I'm hearing about, but, you know, abuse is abuse. So there are different levels of it, I understand. But so I try and take the generic and think about it. And then I let it go. I don't spend my life trying to fix somebody else, because that's called enabling, and that is not helpful to the person. I got a fire truck. Good morning, good-looking fireman. Made my day. But that's what confused the viewer. How did I not stay attached to the problem if I heard some, you know, really bad news or whatever? Because it's not my problem, it's their problem. And I guess in the same way as if you go to see a therapist or a psychiatrist or anything else, you know, they're not phoning you every day to check up to make sure, all right, maybe if you're very new to them, they might make a social call like that. But it's just like, it's really, you have to trust people can cope. It's when we don't trust them to cope, treat them like children, that we actually weaken them. And I'm a very great believer that we each go through life at our speed. I wonder if that makes sense. I believe that I go through life at my speed. I tackle problems at my speed. I learn lessons at my speed. And you will learn yours at yours. So I can look at some people who, for example, managed to quit smoking the first time they ever tried. And I try not to judge myself against those people, because they did not live the life I lived that created the need to smoke in mine. Now, that's not saying that I am better or worse, whatever. That's just saying it's apples and oranges. It's two different stories. And so when you look at these things in people, know that each of us has to deal with our stuff at our speed. So you may be somebody that is very neat and tidy, and you judge somebody who is a hoarder, for example. Well, there's normally a really good reason why people do that sort of stuff. And so what I try and encourage people to do is to be more compassionate. I think if you listen, I've watched a couple of those programs on hoarding it, and it's really interesting. Every time somebody picks something up to throw it away, the hoarder will say, yes, but I might need that someday. You see, it actually is a very good intent in hoarding.